Hello and welcome back to Open Table Adventures. As always, I am Dan the Baker, and we are here today to talk about Unbalanced Encounters, a new season with our series Eat This Game. And to talk about this new season, we have the GM for that season, Patrick. Patrick, tell us a little bit about who you are and this new what you're playing.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Patrick Preheat, and I am the GM and showrunner for Unbalanced Encounters, a very good actual play podcast that you might have never have heard of. We're very twangy, and we have a new season coming out that we're very, very excited about. It's a Gold Rush one this time. So we have our first season, big, epic, sort of almost Critical Role style campaign, one sort of contiguous thing. We're moving into more of a Dimension 20 model where we're going to be doing sort of shorter campaigns that all fit together. They're all sort of set in the same world, but they are individual stories. And the first one is called The Misfortunate 4, and it is very much sort of a Gold Rush story. I think we say, what if Delicious in Dungeon was yeehaw as hell, which I'm very excited about. We've got a great cast. I'm the GM, obviously, and our players are Cinderblock Sally, Caustic Phoenix, Craig Pate, and Emily Graymore. So if any of those names mean anything to you, they're in it, and it's fun. Yeah,
not to mention you also have a bevy of guest stars coming in to do some little voices,
so we do
broadcasts, and
we do.
I got to listen to the first episode because I'm important, and it's a iconic group of people, iconic group of cast, iconic guest stars, and the production value through the roof. It gave me definitely that yeehaw feeling.
We're very, very excited to be able to work with some folks to do some guest spots as well. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah. I'd love to start just talking about the setting. Like, what inspired this kind of Western Gold Rush setting? Like, was that inspired by like old Westerns and like spaghetti Westerns, cowboy movies, or was that let's just talk about that.
Yeah, 100%. So at a high level, absolutely, right? Emily, who is on everything on Unbalanced Encounters, and also my wife, and I really love Westerns. We watch a lot of Westerns together, especially more of the spaghetti Western sort of anti-hero stuff. And so it orbited that in sort of a big way. But there's kind of an unexpected answer to this question, which I really like, which is the original germ for this concept started as my time spent in San Francisco. A lifetime ago, I worked in tech and venture capital, and I spent the better part of a decade living in San Francisco. And I love San Francisco. I think it's a really fascinating place. It's a place that has always been in a gold rush. It's perpetually experiencing a new kind of gold rush. And I have, since my time there, been fascinated with the way that city constantly reinvents itself and is this like engine that eats up like naivete and youthful enthusiasm and energy for like the benefit of a very select few people, right? And so, yes, we love Westerns, right? Like that's spaghetti Westerns and Sergio Leone, huge influences of this for sure. But also it's kind of a crash out breakup letter with venture capitalism. In fact, many of the sort of antagonists in the show call themselves straight up venture capitalists. It is very much modeled after that sort of plundering, that plundering structure.
Yeah, definitely. So the fun fact about me, in my junior year of high school, my marching band, we did a Western, like our show was like a Western inspired. So it was all like West music from those old spaghetti Westerns. And like we
sick.
Had movie nights where we just watched like 3 or 4 of them in a row. Yeah. We did like, I remember the opening number was Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, hell yes.
And and like we had a wagon in the middle of our field, and it was
that's so camp. I love it. And Ennio Morricone is brilliant, right? Like all of those spaghetti westerns just had such incredible orchestration, and like that's also something that I'm a very audio oriented person. I love that shit. That sounds like it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun for sure, and I think that was my first real exposure. Like I knew the Western genre, but that was my first like really like actually diving into them and watching them, and like learning about the history of them was so interesting. And kind of like the real life counterparts to it, because obviously they're, you know, dramatized and fantasticalized versions of real life, but like, you know, a lot of it stems from this is kind of what things were really like it was pretty wild out west. So was there any specific media references you're pulling from, or is it kind of just a mishmash of like tropes and stuff from the genre?
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely are, and I think that literally what I was just about to say is that we tended to focus a little bit more on the spaghetti western side of westerns than necessarily sort of all westerns, because westerns when they started were very idealized, right? They were very like, you know, the hero, the lone hero in the wilds, and the spaghetti westerns, you know, kind of to my mind, really did a good job of centering the anti-hero, right? They really did a good job of centering like the struggle and this idea that like you kind of have to be a shitty person to survive in this ecosystem a little bit, right? Like there are a lot of pressures on you that force you into you know, sort of a path of least resistance, of being selfish, of being self-absorbed. Treasure of the Sierra Madres is a film that I think features pretty highly in this, that influenced us pretty highly in this as well, where the point is kind of the struggle to grow more than it is like to be the shoot 'em up hero, right? And I think that is the side of things that we really landed on, right? Like all of our player characters are really young, and they're really naive, and for a variety of reasons they're kind of shitty to one another, to themselves, to the people around them, because they grew up in this really harsh environment, and that pain of growth and like discovering the heroism in the anti-hero, I think was something from the spaghetti westerns that we really wanted to represent. I think we nailed it. I think we did a good job, but it's there in a big way.
No, from the first episode, at least from what I was listening to, I was like, this fits into my understanding of like that genre and of the like that kind of gold rush era for sure. I would love to go into more about you're talking about the characters and the setting. Can you give more details about like what the actual setting of this story is, like how the characters live in it?
So we've been calling this a wet western, and that gets a lot of laughs. But we really do mean it. It takes place on an island, sort of outcast in a shallow sea. We're sort of inverting the paradigm, and this island, the entire economy of this island, which is just one big city, is powered by this gold rush. The gold rush, however, is not we're going in and mining gold from the mountain. They're taking it from a dragon's lair. So there's a dragon, or at least theoretically there's a dragon. Nobody's seen it in a long time, but theoretically there's a dragon. There's a lot of gold under the mountain. And for 1,000 years, people have been forming these adventuring parties to go down, these adventurer prospecting parties to go down to the mountain, pull out some gold, and it funds the whole economy of this very sort of rainy, dreary, muddy, vertical city, right? And we have characters kind of across the board that really represent all walks of life. Caustic's character, very sort of, she's 17, 18-year-old girl, workaday family, kind of works in the stables for the work moose that power a lot of this town. Emily and Craig's characters, on the other hand, are scions of the same family, the Osprey family, and they very silver spoon in their mouth, and so they're literally coming at this this opportunity to be adventurers and to figure out what that means for them, and to sort of do what they're both wanting to do, also a little pressured to do, in trying to go into the lair and build up some of their legend from very different angles and very different motivations. It's a lot of fun. A lot of sort of devil versus angel motifs that we like to play with. You know, very, very, very high fantasy Western.
Yeah. I'm gonna put some of the art of the characters and stuff. You can see some their silhouettes behind us, but the art that you sent on your website is like, it's gorgeous, it's amazing. And
shout out
like
to Soup. Soup does great work.
Yeah. Like the production value, the music, and just the editing of the first episode, and I'm assuming the rest of the episodes is immaculate.
I would hope so.
Yeah. You start with like a very serious, like cold open, that like you get thrown into it, right off the bat. You're like, oh, we're doing stuff right now, and then kind of like you're like, okay, no, that was a peek into the future, or perhaps, or a I really love that.
That's a little bit of a new thing that we're doing in this season that I'm really, really liking, really proud of, is that every episode does open with a bit of a scripted cold open. And the first one for the Misfortunate 4 has that number of guest stars in it. It's really kind of well sound designed, and it is to give you a little bit of sort of what's to come. It's something that I love to see in APs when they can get it, when they can land it, is that, sort of that literary foreshadowing, right? And giving you a sense of dramatic irony so that you, the audience, is kind of in on the ins and outs where the players aren't necessarily. And a fun thing, if you want to join us for the launch of this, which we'll talk about more later, but it is going to be on October 28th, the players have not heard the finished product. I have intentionally kept this from them so that they get to listen to it when you, the audience, get to listen to it. You can see their reaction. So they have no idea that cold open, I mean, they know it exists, but they haven't heard it. Yeah. They don't know any of the secrets contained within. And so it's going to be really fun to sort of watch it unfold with them, and get to experience it with them as audience too, because we did put a lot of work into the production beyond just the play at the table.
Yeah. And yeah, you can tell the amount of work and the amount of heart that goes into it, for sure. I'd love to take a second, talk a little bit about the peas and carrots, so to speak. Talking about the system you're playing. So you're doing Tales of the Valiant.
Tales of the Valiant, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to know, was there any sort of like decision process going into deciding to do that? And what was that like? And were there other options you were looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So we played D&D 5e for our first campaign, and for a long time, kind of toward the end, and especially with the 2024 rules kind of coming out and changing things up, we wanted an off-ramp. We wanted a way to play other games. A big world out there, a lot of other games out in the world, and we wanted a way to explore it. And so we're moving to this new structure, shorter campaigns, shorter shows that do sort of knit together. We're going to be playing a variety of games. We needed, again, an off-ramp. We needed a place to kind of start that transition. Tales of the Valiant was such an obvious choice because it is so fundamentally, kind of the DNA is 5e, right? And so it was the shortest path for us to be like, okay, this is a different game. It's going to let us kind of take our audience by the hand and say, hey, we're going to be playing some new stuff, but a lot of it's very familiar. Some quality of life changes in Tales of the Valiant I really love. It was a tremendous amount of fun to play. But it was an obvious choice for a transition from all D&D all the time to the wider world of tabletop.
Yeah, definitely. Was there any like modifications or changes you made to the system to better fit the setting?
It's a good question. I think not so much for Tales of the Valiant itself. The core engine, I mean, it's 5e, so it was, for the most part, super familiar. The quality of life changes, like the luck mechanics, really lead to some crazy cool moments that we didn't have to do anything, right? That worked really well. We do use a fair amount of homebrew, and I think that was something that kind of materialized over the course of this. Cinder and I have been working with Rift Kid Games on what was a D&D setting book for a couple of years. That is a Weird West setting book, and we had this sort of in progress kind of project for a while, and we decided, hey, we wanted to use it. It actually contains the Godslinger, which is the class that Emily plays in the Misfortunate 4. And we were like, hey, this seems really cool. We want to bring this into the thing. We had to completely rework that for Tales of the Valiant, right? So a lot of the homebrew needed to be reworked, but to their credit, nothing from Tales of the Valiant needed reworked, and Kobold Press actually published some documentation for how to move your homebrew from 5e over to Tales of the Valiant that made even the homebrew work pretty light lifting. So it was a pretty easy switch.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, Cinder wanting to do homebrew, color me shocked.
Yeah, we do a little bit of game design for sure.
Yeah, just a little bit. I've played Tales of the Valiant for a couple short little campaigns. It definitely, like you said, it has that, D&D 5e kind of in its DNA and its heart, but does feel like you're like, oh, this feels a little different. You're like, this is D&D in an alternate universe kind of thing,
Yeah,
Bizarro D&D, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of the byline is delicious in dungeon if it was yeehaw as hell.
Yes.
And that, you can see that in that kind of like dungeon diving adventure aspect of it. But I would love to know, does food and eating also play a part in this game?
So probably not quite as much as in Delicious in Dungeon. It's not sort of the central focus of the thing, but it does come up. I think for the Delicious in Dungeon reference, we have a couple of our player characters do sort of traffic in monster parts occasionally used for food, and that's a little sub mechanic that we came up with that has been a lot of fun. Sort of puts a lot of flavor into the world. Longtime listeners of Unbalanced Encounters will know that I have a really soft spot for food in our art, just sort of generally. I love to focus in on, kind of the way food characterizes a place and a moment and can be sort of an emotional anchor. What we thought ended up being really interesting in the Misfortunate 4 is that it's so devoid of sort of heartfelt intimacy because these characters are anti-heroes struggling against those tendencies, right? That where food ended up was more in a place of like creating tension. So food is a way for us to demonstrate like, oh, these people are experiencing luxury and opulence to the point where they are just dissociated from real life, right? Like one of the things that we touch on really early in the first episode is that Emily and Craig's characters' parents' mansion has an orchard, and in this island in an ocean that is very, very vertical, there's no arable land. All crops are sort of grown in pots and so forth, and we touch on that a couple of times where it's like to have an orange means that you are wealthier than God because you could afford the space in order to be able to grow this thing. And so it kind of took on this interesting kind of character all its own of like demonstrating, hey, this is sort of the iniquity of the world, which it was not super intentional, but I love where it landed because I think it's a cool, very like you can feel that, right? Like you sort of can get in, like it really makes it tangible. Like, oh, these people can't afford citrus, everybody's got scurvy down in the mud, so
that kind of that cultural aspect of the cultural and societal aspect, I should say, of that. You can definitely see that with the like I said, with Emily and Craig's characters. And I really love that. Is that something that does continue in further episodes? Like, do you continue talking about that lack of equity between that?
Yeah, we do. We build on it both from a food perspective and more generally. It's a pretty major theme. And again, longtime listeners of Unbalanced Encounters know we're not shy about that, right? Like, kind of class and and freedom and so forth are things that are very big themes in everything that we do. And in the Misfortunate 4, it is very personal because we have these characters who are haves and have-nots struggling with what that means, both from, for them as people who want to grow and learn and become what they want to be, and also as barriers between people who have to live in the reality that they live in. So it's a major theme for pretty much all 4 of the player characters, I think, in a big way.
Yeah, totally. And it's definitely relatable to real life because, grocery prices continue to rise and food deserts are spreading in America. But that's, neither here nor there, I'm sure. It was not.
That's a whole other podcast that I am more than happy to record at another time. Yes.
One question I always ask
Yeah.
for this show is, if you were to take a bite out of the
Yes.
Misfortunate Four, what
Yeah.
would it taste like? What's the
Sure.
texture like? What is the
Sure.
what's the mouth feel? What do we got going on there?
Um. Okay. I'm gonna. Have you ever heard the David Lynch quote? Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
Yes.
I wrestled with this for like a good hour when you sort of sent me a primer of like, hey, where what are we going to look at? This was one of the questions, and I was like, oh man, what a good question. I have no idea. And I sat with it for like a good hour, and I didn't come up with anything. And then in my head, David Lynch said, believe it or not, Dungeness crab, and then refused to elaborate.
Yeah. We all have a little David Lynch in our head, so I do understand that for sure. Yeah.
But I think he's right. I think
Yeah.
Dungeness crab is the correct answer here.
I could see that. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. Fits with the middle of the ocean dungeon diving. It's got a little
I think
meat
it's
to it, but you got
also
to work for it.
Yeah, and I think it's also it feels a little luxurious, but also it's always a little
Mm,
tougher than you expected. You know, it's always
yeah.
a little Dungeness crab. So Dungeness crab, I think, is the answer.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I think that definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that if you just take away that from this video, I think you know
There you
exactly
go.
what you have going on. All right. So with all that being said, I think I have a good idea of what I'm going to be making. Let's get to the kitchen. All right, y'all. So for the Misfortunate Four, I am making something called Cowboy Cornbread, which more or less is cornbread baked on top of a layer of chili. It's slightly technically different than that and a little bit more nuanced, but that's what I'm doing. So moving on. I start by cooking my turkey as well as white and red onions. I put them over a medium heat until the turkey is fully cooked and the onions are nice and soft. I then also realize that I need a bigger pot, so I do a little presto changeo 1-2 switch, bingo bango, here we have a bigger pot. Next, I add in my seasoning. I just used a Cajun seasoning mix, but you can use, your own mix of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, what have you. I then add a can of crushed tomatoes, some tomato paste, and some chicken broth. Then I add in some red kidney beans and minced garlic. I mix everything until it's well incorporated, and then I let the chili simmer for about 30 minutes or until all of the liquid has reduced and the chili is nice, thick, and saucy. Now, moving on to the cornbread portion of our evening, I mix together some cornmeal, flour, salt, and baking powder, and I then add in some melted butter and honey, milk, and 2 eggs. I mix this together until it's all homogeneous. It's not going to be completely smooth because it's cornmeal, but it's mostly smooth, and that's what I'm looking for. Next, I'm going to combine everything by first putting in my layer of chili. At this point, you can also add in some shredded cheese if you want. I didn't feel like it at this point. I forgot to get cheese, but that's another point. And then you spread the cornbread batter on top. And then I'm going to put the whole thing in my 350-degree oven and let it bake for about 30 to 35 minutes. And there you have it, folks, our yeehaw's heck cowboy cornbread for the Misfortunate Four. Hey Patrick, why don't you tell everyone where they can find it?
So you can find Unbalanced Encounters wherever pods are casted or at unbalancedencounters.com. The Misfortunate 4 is going to be dropping Tuesday, October 28th. We are going to have a live listen along on our YouTube. And with that episode, and actually every episode, which drop every other Tuesday, we are going to be giving away a little bit of UE merch and some copies of Tales of the Valiant provided very generously by Kobold Press. So definitely be sure to tune in on our YouTube, Unbalanced Encounters, October 28th, and then every other Tuesday for the Misfortunate 4.
Thank you all for watching this episode of Eat This Game. Make sure you stick around here for more recipes, interviews, and actual plays, and so much more. As always, I've been Dan the Baker. This has been Open Table Adventures, and you are always welcome to pull up a seat. Bye-bye.